All right. Well, welcome everybody to Pandemic Hyperaccelerator for Science and Technology FAST Demo Day. This is something we've been working for most of 2021, and we're really excited to share with you the companies and what we've been up to. Before we really dive in, I wanted to invite everybody to introduce yourself in chat. We've got a bunch of people from all sorts of different places, different positions. You're investors, some are entrepreneurs, various other service providers. Go ahead and let us know who you are and where you are. So here we are at Demo Day, and this is always an exciting part for us when we have been working so hard on an accelerator and working with companies over a long period of time. And this is the culmination of really an exciting and different program, and I'll share some of those differences with you in just a moment. But I think you're going to be really impressed with the companies you're going to see presenting here today. Just a quick background about RVC. Most of you know us, but we've been investing in companies in Colorado for over 35 years, and our mission as a nonprofit is to educate investors and entrepreneurs and connect them to make these investments and economic development happen. We do that through about 140 different events throughout the year. That includes things like this, the Hyperaccelerator programs, the Angel Capital Summit, the Colorado Capital Conference, and classes, workshops, masterminds, investor group meetings, due diligence, all of those things throughout the year. We look at a ton of different deals. And so it allows us to be selective in what we present in front of our audiences, and we are picking literally from the best companies that we see, both within our own media network, but also within the syndication networks that we have throughout the United States. I would like at this point to turn it over to Bryn Reese, who's the head of CU Ventures, and just talk about this program from their point of view, and anything you'd like to share.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I just wanted to welcome everybody here today. Bryn Reese, Associate Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation at CU Boulder, and I run a group called Venture Partners. So we're the arm of the university that helps to translate breakthrough research into commercial endeavors, some of which you'll see today. So this is really, I think, a wonderful opportunity to have two different communities coming together for this event. We've got folks from the RVC network and folks from the CU Boulder network. And I think, these are two different communities that have come together before, and we hope will continue to do so in the future. So I also, want to start off really congratulating the companies, and you're going to hear from them today. But these are folks who have very strong training in academics, and science, and engineering, and they are expanding their horizons here to deliver on this promise of ensuring that university research has a broader impact, in this case through commercialization. So really exciting to see those journeys happening. That's what FAST was all about. And to give you a little context on FAST, I'll briefly go over the three main components. So the first was entrepreneurs in residence. So each company had an EIR assigned to them, actually more than one EIR assigned to them. We had 7 fantastic EIRs working for 7 months with each company. The second component is research to market. So every company you are going to see today went through an extensive lean startup and customer discovery program. And then the third piece is the Rockies Venture Club Hyperaccelerator. Some of you may know that more, but a very intense, very thorough program that each company really benefited from. So coming out the other side, we've seen some scientists and engineers really grow through this program, make some strong pivots, and go from 0 to 100 during this program. So really exciting to see the outcome of that today. I'll wrap up with just a couple thoughts on the purpose here. FAST is the whole goal here was to help with economic recovery coming out of the pandemic. And you see some of the partners on the slide there. This whole program doesn't happen if it isn't for the Economic Development Administration and the grant that we received from the EDA. So our huge thanks to them. That program is called Sprint Challenge, and there were about 40 initiatives like FAST across the country. So it's great to be a part of that program. And then secondly, our longtime partner, Office of Economic Development and International Trade, OEDIT, also providing support to the companies here as well. So thank you to OEDIT and the EDA. And then lastly, huge thanks to Rocky's Venture Club. This is the most formal partnership we've had, and I think it's just been a fantastic result to bring our company founders through the Hyper Accelerator and plug them into the RVC network. So really looking forward to enjoying all the pitches and presentations that we hear today.
Great, thanks, Bryn. And I just want to say, this is unscripted, but I remember the first time meeting Bryn at Thrive Workplace in Ballpark in Denver, and it was when CU was going through this transformation from a technology transfer type commercialization program to this CU Ventures concept. And the transformation of what has happened over this period of time and the sophistication and effectiveness of commercialization of university technologies and research has been truly amazing, and probably a good example for other universities and federal labs throughout the country. So it's been really fun to watch and to have these partnerships. So thank you for this opportunity. I want to give just a little bit of background about Hyper Accelerator and what we think about this. There are many programs out there, and you've all seen many of them, and they result in a pitch. And there's this sort of adulation of the pitch in accelerator programs, incubator programs, community and startup programs. And the pitch is important, and we focus a lot on the pitch. And today we will see some really great pitches, and we have worked hard to produce high quality pitches. But one thing we have noticed is that a lot of companies are pitching before they're really ready for investment. And so the transformation that the Hyper Accelerator hopes to achieve is to make this jump from being pitch worthy to being investment worthy. And so we think of the pitch as really just this tiny tip of the iceberg. And now we want to go in and fill in the gaps and put meat on the bones of the strategy behind the companies and what they're doing. So this involves creating written documentation of things that many companies have not even thought about, or it's an absolute mystery about how to create them. And these are things like exit strategies and how to talk about exits in a productive and useful way, or valuation, or what your capital stack strategy is, and looking at cumulative impacts of various rounds of investment. Go-to-market strategies. All of those things are things we see are a gap in the market. And this is where a lot of traditional accelerators are not filling in. And don't get me wrong, we love the accelerators we work with, we mentor with, we invest in, and we are not here to be critical, but to think that this is something that we could be adding on to what they're doing. And in our partnerships with various accelerators, this is something that we could help with. And this is creating pitches that are investor pitches as opposed to community pitch. So we think of the Hyper Accelerator almost as a capstone. We've called it at sometimes the 13th week following a typical 12-week accelerator, to get companies to be truly investment ready as well as strategy, product, or market ready. We're realistic though. The Hyper Accelerator program itself, just to clarify, Bryn talked about this FAST program has been a 7-month program. But the Hyper Accelerator program itself is 1 week, so super intense. And the idea is to break things into chunks. And we know that in a half day, we're not going to get a full, pro forma financial model done, but we can get to 1.0. And the goal here is to get people learning the language familiar with the tools and get to a point where they have something that's realistic and at least 90% ready, and they can continue to work on those things over time. We stress test these things with investors. We help to solidify these strategies. And then, of course, the entire focus of this is getting investment. Now, this is a live ammo pitch thing. Some of the companies today are not, they will tell you they're not pursuing funding at this time, but they might be in a few months. So we do this by breaking the week into half-day segments. So it's this learn, do, present, and defend model. So they get, for example, for evaluation, we introduce all the tools, the principles, and the uses of valuations in negotiation and so on. And then we'll break out with mentors, and we'll actually go through, create 5 different valuation methods, and then we come back together and present and defend. So the brain state of each person in this program is changing every hour or so. And it's super fast paced, which, by the way, this FAST program was 100% on Zoom. So if you can imagine the Zoom fatigue of 50 straight hours, 5 days in a row, or 6 days actually, it's a lot. And so this mixing it up made it certainly exhausting, but tolerable. The mentors are a super important part of this program, and thanks to those of you in the audience who helped with participating with this. In surveys, people say that the mentor interaction, the advice they get throughout this program is probably one of the most valuable parts. And each day, each company gets a new mentor. So they're getting lots and lots of different perspectives. And the result of that is what we call mentor whiplash. And if a company hasn't received diametrically opposed advice at some point in the Hyper Accelerator program, then something's probably going wrong. Our goal is to have lots and lots of perspectives, but understanding that the role of a CEO, founder of a company, is to ultimately make those decisions once being exposed to it, not just to blindly accept any advice given. So this Hyper Accelerator was different than the previous 16 Hyper Accelerators that we've done. And Bryn talked about a lot of the things that I found were really interesting about this cohort and this program. And the first was these partnerships. And, thanks to CU Ventures, Soedit, EDA, and of course, the team at RVC and all of the mentors. But also this concept of pandemic focus. So thinking about commercialization, economic revitalization following pandemic. We have done a pandemic Hyper Accelerator last year being 2020. And this is something that I think will continue to be a focus. But the one thing that was truly different was the types of teams that we were seeing here. A lot of companies that come to Rocky's Venture Club have started and exited previous companies. They're having primarily business, finance backgrounds. And here we're looking at university technology, university research, and academic-oriented teams. And I'll just share with you, I was a little nervous about how this was going to work because we literally speak a different language. And the Hyper Accelerator program, if nothing else, is a language course, teaching the language of venture capital, the tools of venture capital. And I was extraordinarily impressed with these teams of how rapidly they were able to absorb these concepts and integrate those into their companies. Brent also mentioned the R2m program. This was a stroke of genius in program design on behalf of CU Ventures to build this in, because this caused drastic changes in strategy for several of the companies, and it really helped to give and to build up how companies thought about their ultimate customers before they really started the RVC Hyper Accelerator program. The EIRs, I just have to say, each and every one of them are amazing. They were top quality people from around the country. You will get a chance to meet these folks. They'll be introducing the companies here this afternoon. So for demo day, here's what to expect. These companies will be giving a 5-minute pitch, and they'll have 5 minutes for Q&A. So 10 minutes overall. If you're watching on your clocks, if they go to 6, it's fine. They'll have 4 minutes for Q&A. Your role as audience is to click on the raise your hand function in Zoom if you would like to ask a question, or if you're shy, you can type one into the chat and get it in that way. So this is meant to be interactive. So as you're watching these pitches, be thinking about questions you might have and be ready to ask those. After the pitches, we will be breaking off into two segments in Zoom. So the investors will stay in the main stage area, and there's some functionality in Zoom that we want to use for them in terms of polling. So we'll just stay right where we are, and then others will move into breakout room if they like to debrief, network, and chat, and wrap up. So here are the companies that we'll be seeing today. So we've got 7 pitches. And I've indicated here who the EIRs are who will be introducing the companies. So we have Hyperskin, Respirogen, Chitizi, Vitro 3D, because Vesicle Therapeutics, and 2m Genomics. And let me just say that if you are watching these pitches and you think, where's the pandemic link in this? Well, some of these companies started out, all of these companies started out with a pandemic focus. And after going through the R2m program, some shifted to more market appropriate things. And we, as a team, decided that that was just great. Our goal is commercialization and not sort of blindly focusing just on the pandemic. So with,
sorry, I'm having trouble hearing.
So with that, let me turn it over to John Shapiro, the EIR, who will introduce Hyperskin. And I will unshare.
Okay, my name is John Shapiro. Can you all hear me? I'm not sure if it's coming through.
Yep.
Yes? Okay, great. So I'm representing Hyperskin, formerly Chroma Praxis. We are a skin technology company. I'll be introducing Dr. Carson Bruns. He's one of the founders. He's an assistant professor at CU, a Colorado native, got his PhD at Northwestern in organic chemistry, a postdoc at UC Berkeley. Carson brings together a unique set of scientific skills, art, and business. Another founder is Keith Bang Bang McCurdy. Keith is a celebrity tattoo artist, serial entrepreneur. He's the world's leading influencer on tattoos, and he's done people from Rihanna to Katy Perry, Justin Bieber, Adele, Miley Cyrus, and Jesse Butterfield. Jesse is a PhD candidate in Dr. Bruns' lab. He's the brains behind the magic. Why am I excited? We have great science. It's mature and ready for commercialization. We have a large and growing market. 35% of 18 to 30-year-olds get tattoos. We validated the market. Dr. Bruns has had 700,000 views on his TED Talk, 2.5 million followers on Instagram, and 15 million on YouTube. For Keith, we have a full team. We have marketing and influencer marketing ready to go, and a strategy to expand into beauty and healthcare. So let me introduce Dr. Bruns.
Great. Thanks so much for that introduction, John. I'm excited to pitch Hyperskin for all of you. Our mission is simple. We want to make skin better. We're a skin technology company, and our technology are these tiny particles that get implanted permanently in the skin, in the second layer of the skin, the dermis, same exact place where tattoo pigments go. But our particles are made mostly of a biocompatible polymer, and they've got some of these magic ingredients in them that give them special properties. And depending on what those magic ingredients are, these technologies solve different problems in different markets, different domains, everywhere from body art to radiological oncology. So there's a lot of directions we can go with this technology, but probably the most exciting opportunity we have is in medical aesthetics, where UV light, ultraviolet light, is a huge problem. And almost everybody knows that UV causes skin cancer, but not as many people know that UV is also the main cause of skin aging. And this gentleman is a great example. He has aged much more on one side of his face than the other because he was a truck driver, and that was the side of his face facing the window. Unfortunately, most people don't use sunscreen, and even those who do don't typically use it correctly because sunscreen kind of sucks. It's hard to use. It doesn't last very long. It wears off quickly. It's hard to tell how much you have. And so our solution to this UV protection problem is a kind of permanent sunscreen. It's an implant It's totally invisible. It goes in your skin, but it captures up to 80% of the UV light that enters your skin in a single permanent procedure. So it's like, it works like sunscreen, except it also works like a tattoo, but it doesn't change the color of your skin. So our customer here are people like medical estheticians and their customers. This is a huge industry, people who go to medical estheticians for permanent cosmetic facial procedures. And Jess Oslo, one of the directors of the Vantis Institute, says that their customers will pay over $10,000 for these types of treatments. They're super excited about it. We've conducted over 50 customer discovery interviews with medical estheticians and tattoo artists. We'll get to the tattoo part soon. But this UV protectant thing is permanent UV protectant is a new product category. So we have a patent filed and pending to protect that. But there's a huge opportunity here. It could be a sort of a unicorn type of situation because almost every cosmetic elective facial surgical procedure that you look at is $1 billion market. And we think that we can grow to $1 billion in 10 to 12 years, but it's going to take a lot of time and investment up front to get through the clinical trials and FDA approval process to get this technology approved as a biomedical device. And so we're going to pay for a lot of that by entering a beachhead market in cosmetics, specifically tattoo ink, where FDA approval is not required. So we can start selling tattoo ink immediately. And the magic ingredients in our tattoo ink is a UV responsive dye that changes color in response to blue or violet light. So you can expose these tattoo inks to violet light and they'll change color. We can actually control how long that color change lasts. And other than that, it works like a normal tattoo ink. So the use cases here is basically a totally new type of dynamic body art. You can now reprogram and morph your tattoo or animate your tattoo. For example, this Cheshire cat might be able to disappear when you go inside or when you go outside. And you can literally write and erase and rewrite your tattoo over and over again with light. So our go-to-market strategy here is an influencer-driven Instagram campaign. We have the most influential tattoo artist in the world on our team, Keith McCurdy, also known as Bang Bang. If you don't believe us, you can read the New York Times article about him. And he's going to associate our tattoo ink with the best and most coveted tattoos in the world and help us place this tattoo ink as a very exclusive kind of premium product. So it's going to be very expensive, high profit margins, low volume. You know, at first you're not going to be able to get this unless you're a celebrity, but that's going to drive demand. Our go-to-market partners, we're in talks with Eternal Tattoo Supply for distribution and Biogenesis for manufacturing. And again, this is a totally new product category in tattooing. So we have a patent pending on our magic tattoo ink as well. The number one question we get is it safe? And the answer is yes. I've tested many of these tattoo pigments on myself, and I hope you can see that my skin on my arm looks totally healthy. But there's these little test spots that turn blue in response to UV light because I've got some magic ink in there. And we've been researching this ink for over 4 years. We are absolutely the team to do this. I am a Nobel laureate trained scientist, and sorry, I got ahead of myself here. And Jesse is the chief engineer. He wrote his entire PhD thesis on biomedical tattoos. And Keith McCurdy, Bang Bang, is our CEO. And he, oh gosh, all right, let me get back to the slide, I'm sorry. He's gonna be our kind of CEO and also our marketing lead, right? He's gonna help us sort of spearhead the Instagram campaign and place this in the hands of really influential people. So our numbers, we're gonna grow to about $5 million in revenue in 5 years, only with the tattoo ink stuff. We're gonna become cash flow positive in about 3 years. And we've already raised about a little over 200K, mostly for R&D to get there. And so our ask is for a $1.5 million seed round to get us through the first 2 years. People are really craving new technology in this domain in body art. You can look up these recent comparable raises where these companies we feel are being really successful, but we offer a product that's far superior. That's our pitch. Thanks. We hope you'll join us and help make skin better.
Thanks, Carson. That was great. That was 6 minutes and 22 seconds. So do we have any questions for Carson? We'd love for all of you to just, raise your hands and be able to jump in live. Let's see. Okay. Do you see any folks?
I can just jump in and ask a question to kick us off. And Carson, can you tell us a little bit about your timing of when do you think that this will actually hit the market?
Yeah, we want to do a little bit more R&D. Probably it's going to take about 4 to 6 months to kind of get our final product perfect. And then at that point, maybe in 6 to 8 months, I think we're going to start putting our ink in the hands of kind of key partners, people that Bang Bang is really close to, people who work in his shop. Most of the people in his shop, by the way, have millions of followers of their own, and he's got 30 plus people in his shop. So we're going to put our ink in the hands of these really influential tattoo artists and let them do amazing things with it and start, like kind of controlling the Instagram campaign at that point. And I'd say it'll take between a year and a year and a half before we start selling it kind of more on a mass market type of level.
Have any more questions out there?
Pam, you've got 4 raised hands there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not seeing it in the chat.
So Justin, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So my question was, is the current ink formulation have the same properties as the permanent sunscreen? And is it just lacking FDA approval for the current formulation?
Yeah, so they're both made, like 90% of the pigment is made of the same biocompatible polymer, but the permanent sunscreen and the magic tattoo ink have different kind of the magic ingredients, the dopants that we put inside of those pigments. And so they'll behave very similarly in terms of biocompatibility, but in the case of the magic ink, we don't really need FDA approval, although, we're still going to continue with our safety testing. And in the case of the permanent sunscreen, in order to claim that it's UV protective, we're going to need to prove that to the FDA.
Thank you. Praful, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. A couple of quick questions, Carson. Thanks again for interesting presentation. Following up on Justin's question, tell us a bit about the pigments themselves, briefly.
Yeah, they're made of what's called PMMA. It's a polymer that's used in dermal fillers. So it's a material that's been FDA approved for dermal fillers, which go a little bit lower in the skin. They're implanted subdermally instead of intradermally like ours. And so most of the pigments are made of that, and their size scale is between 100 and 500 nanometers. And then they have these dopants in them that the concentration depends on our formula, and we're still kind of perfecting it right now.
Thank you.
Thanks. We have just one more minute. And let's see, Tasso, if you want to ask the last question here.
I just had a question about your CEO. He seems like he obviously has a very strong business background in the area of tattoos. But as you guys move to sort of a medical product, is the idea to keep this all under the same company, or is that going to be sort of a separate pursuit? And what sort of experience does he have that would be beneficial as you guys try to expand into these other markets?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that. Keith Bang Bang McCurdy is our CEO, but he's also a CEO of a skincare company and a cannabis company. So he's a serial entrepreneur. He's a very experienced businessman, very successful. And we are going to keep everything under one company. So if you were to invest, for example, in Hyperskin, you're not only investing in Magic Tattoo Ink, but also our permanent sunscreen and the other things we're going to make in the future.
That's 10. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so next up will be Curtis Woodard introducing Respirogen.
Hi, everybody. Really nice job, Carson. Great job on that. So I'm introducing Respirogen, which is a preclinical stage company. They offer an alternative oxygen delivery method for patients with compromised lung function, which is pretty topical right now in our current COVID environment. If proven out in human clinical trials, you could see that this would be used in a lot of emergency response systems, hospital markets, et cetera. So it has a pretty large opportunity, in my opinion. My fellow EIR, Eric Hoffman, and I had the pleasure of working with Bob and the leadership team over at Respirogen throughout the FAST program. They're a really experienced team with both the scientific and business background to bring this to success. Bob Scribner is the CEO. He'll be talking today, and on the phone today as well is Paul Montfort, who's the Director of Research and Development, and Robbie Scribner, who's the Director of Operations. So I'll just pass it on to Bob, and best of luck.
Hey, Bob, you're still on mute.
Okay. I go back to presentation mode. How am I looking, Kevin?
Looks good.
Okay, thank you. Again, Bob Scribner with Respirogen. We have a novel approach to oxygen delivery and hypoxia and applications in pandemic response. COVID and lung diseases cause hypoxia, which is low oxygen in the blood and organs. And today, over 6,500 people will die of COVID globally, most after ventilator therapy. Our technology is lipid oxygen microbubbles, which deliver oxygen without using the lungs. The image that you see here is a patient in hypoxia being treated with a ventilator and ECMO blood oxygenation, which are current standard of care. Our procedure is non-surgical. It can be delivered in multiple points of care. We have completed animal studies, and we're preparing for first human use in IND phase 1 studies in 2022. Our procedure kit delivers oxygen in liter quantities of microbubbles delivered to the colon. This is similar to wilderness hydration and late-stage cancer pain medication delivery, and the procedure is compatible with current respiratory protocols and does not require specialized training or complex equipment. The product is a lipid shell containing medical grade oxygen. Oxygen delivery is systemic. It reduces blood CO2 concentration and can be provided over extended time periods. Our target is to reduce the need for and death rate of patients on ventilator therapy. Treatment of hypoxia has not changed since the invention of the ventilator. The world obviously has changed, and there's a critical need for new strategies for hypoxia. The primary need for new oxygen delivery methods is in acute respiratory distress, which affects 240,000 patients annually in the US with a 40% mortality rate. Ventilator therapy, the current standard of care, cannot move oxygen across an injured lung. Extended time on the ventilator can cause complications, including ventilator-induced lung injury. Respirogen technology is intended to support patients when they are not responsive to the ventilator. Patients on a ventilator can be on a ventilator for days at 100% oxygen delivery with no improvement. Our system can be used with the ventilator at all stages of care, and the procedure may reduce the PTSD experienced by lung injury patients who survive ventilator therapy, which can be an extremely traumatic method of care for patients with lung injury problems. We've demonstrated efficacy in 6 animal models, the most recent funded by the US Air Force at Nebraska. The Air Force is investing in this to enable field transport of wounded service personnel. The model is a hypoxic lung injury model in the pig. Data from the study shows statistically significant increase in blood oxygen and reduction in blood CO2 from a single bolus delivery of our microoxygen. The response was evaluated over a 3-hour period due to animal study regulations. We believe the effect can be extended for longer periods using multiple exchanges or continuous cycling of the microoxygen. The significant decrease in CO2 may be evaluated in COPD therapy and other blood gas protocols. Today, we have approval at Colorado State for first-in-man study to determine procedure safety. We've submitted data to FDA for the IND process to start enrollment of this study. And the FDA has responded to us that they'll provide written guidance on the protocol by January 31st. In intellectual property, we have license agreements in place for 4 issued patents from Columbia and CU, and we have filed a series of applications from the company on broad use of the microsphere technology. We believe our strategy is dramatically different from competing technology. Drug regimens cannot provide systemic oxygen, and mechanical systems are based on current ECMO technology and face similar limitations to ECMO today. We have an experienced management team from academics, medicine, and industry. Our team includes inventor Mark Borden from CU, Air Force Principal Investigator Keely Busing, a trauma surgeon at Nebraska, and the head of cardiac intensive care, Ivor Douglas at Denver Health. Our raise is a seed round, raising $500,000 by SAFE to fund the first-in-man trial. We're seeking non-dilutive capital as well, filing an NHLBI grant application for $1.7 million in funding, specifically for first-round studies with FDA, and the review is expected in Q2 2022. We believe the first-in-man data will support a venture capital or corporate round for Series A to fund our randomized FDA trial, and we expect that round to be about $14 million. Our development timeline plans for Series A to take us to enrollment of the phase 1 trial in healthy volunteers, starting again in Q1 of 2022. Series B funding brings the company through phase 2 trial enrollment and data analysis, and the financial objective is exit in 2025 based on the phase 2 data. Our financial projections include capital necessary to fund the milestone trials with reserves available for regulatory or study enrollment delays. The Series A round can be structured as a tranche financing or reduced in size based on enrollment milestones. Our exit opportunity is with companies in the intensive care and ventilator markets. The opportunity to add a high-value disposable lines up with strategy of major companies, including Medtronic, Getinge, Philips, and others. And in summary, we're seeking a seed financing of $500,000 in a SAFE structure. The market need is significant and ongoing. Silicon Valley Bank data supports a great exit opportunity for this type of pharma program, and our data supports the promise of the technology as we move into FDA clinical trials. We have an urgently needed solution with broad long-term applications in COVID and respiratory diseases, and I'd be pleased to speak directly with you if you need additional information. Thanks for your attention today.
Thanks, Bob. That was 6 minutes and about 8 seconds. Let's take some questions.
Raful, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Thanks again, Curtis. I have several questions, but the first one is regarding the finance. How long is this $500,000 going to last? And when is the next round, and how big is the next round going to be?
The $500,000 is going to support us through the Colorado State study. It's adequate for the full budget enrollment of 24 patients, which is done at 2 stages. The first series of 6, followed by our IRB review, and then enrollment of the second phase. That safety data would then go to FDA to support a randomized phase 1 trial. What's interesting is the first study at CSU is a mechanism of action study under an exploratory IND, which allows us to go ahead without significant investment in cytotox studies as you would with a new pharma moiety. So we expect the $500K to take us through 2022, and the Series A raise, which I mentioned at $14 million, would take us into the phase 1 FDA randomized trial.
BJ, would you like to ask your question? Or I can ask it. BJ's asking if the lipid portion is novel.
The lipid is novel. It's a monolayer lipid, and most lipid shells like this are a bilayer, so it is unique and it's protected in the intellectual property.
Okay, and we've got another question asking what kind of complication can occur by the oxygen being given through the anus?
We consider this to be very typical to an enema procedure. I mentioned that hydration in wilderness setting is done by this. You can actually see Bear Grylls teaching this on YouTube from his wilderness television show that he runs. And it's also identical to home health care methods for late stage and hospice cancer patients where pain meds are delivered across the anus to the colon. So the risk from oxygen itself, we believe to be minor, and the associated risks of enema procedures are well defined in the literature and we think are readily understood and controlled.
Thanks. So Susan's asking, is there any specialized equipment required, or is it using all standard medical equipment in the market for delivery?
This uses standard medical equipment, basically IV bag and pressure cuff for delivery, enema catheter for transit into the body. And really, Dr. Douglas is an enthusiast because he thinks this could be broadly adopted and used with a minimal amount of training. He sees this as a real asset in any ambulance response. And he would like to see it in the setting of sudden cardiac arrest, which is another big problem, over 300,000 patients and 90% mortality rate. So an ambulance crew could respond, start delivering oxygen immediately and not change any of their other response protocols in trauma or sudden cardiac arrest.
Thanks. We have just about 30 seconds left for a real quick question. Oh, here we go. By the time the trial's complete, do you anticipate that COVID will be the biggest driver of adoption, or will there be another primary application that will drive adoption?
Well, I hope that another primary application is not COVID 2022 or another variation of something that's coming down the road. I would like to think that the current pandemic will move to endemic stage and that the antivirals and the pill type therapies that are now coming through may be effective, and the critical need that we saw in 2020 for ventilator demand won't be repeated.
Thank you. Thanks. We're at 10, so we want to give everybody else a chance, but thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Great job, Bob. That was a good pitch. Okay, so next up is Chatizi, and to introduce them is EIR Hector Rodriguez.
Thanks, Bob and Respirogen, for your presentation. I am Hector here, EIR in the program, and it is my privilege to introduce you to Liz Saint-Denis and Chatizi in what I consider to be a remarkable pivot in looking for the greater opportunity. So Liz, who is herself a PhD in computer science, believed that there was mission critical information in social media for better emergency response. And throughout customer discovery, she realized that there was a much bigger market where the same thesis of valuing the noise could be used. And that is the video chats as a new source of customer insights and lead generation that ultimately leads to revenue. So Liz, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Hector. So here we go. So today's market is a cutthroat competition for attention to generate market qualified leads. And early on to identify hands raised by potential customers. Yet there's a source of millions of interactions a day that are going unmonitored, containing insights, candid reactions, and direct connections to these potential customers. The good old chat. But chat is a really clumsy and primitive tool. Have any of you had the experience where you've asked a question in video chat and never been acknowledged? Or as a presenter, struggled with not being able to gauge the reaction of your audience because you can see at most a handful of faces and not been able to follow the conversation in the chat? Hello, everybody. My name is Liz Saint-Denis, and I'm one of the founders of Chatteezy, where we build AI for video chats that don't suck. And we connect these video chats to the top of the funnel, generating leads beyond the words. To give you a feel for Chatteezy, imagine that I'm Christine McCall here, marketing manager at a MarTech company, demoing the latest version of our product release in a webinar with over 300 participants. There's been a lot of conversation in the chat, which would be impossible for me to follow, except that I have Chatteezy. It's about 15 minutes into the demo, and I've covered a lot of information, and I've answered a handful of questions already. And I realize that there's 4 new questions that have come up for me. So I go to the questions tab and I scan through them, and there's a question raised by Lise that folds nicely into what I'm currently talking about. So I answer it. And after I answer it, it moves from the questions tab to the answers tab. I'd also like to be able, as I'm going through the demo, to be able to gauge how people are responding in the audience. And so I can do that by looking up at the sentiment gauge in the top right-hand corner, which keeps track of what's happening in the chat. And then later in the demo, when there's a chance for a break, I go to the top post tab and the analytics tab, which gives me more detailed metrics. And I can pick out things that when we come back from the break, allow me to connect with my audience and engage with them more effectively. But let's take one of our top participants here, Todd McCall, and look at things from the participant perspective. So similarly, he can follow along with the live feed in the live feed tab. And at the same time that Chatteezy takes and picks out the main topics of conversation and shows them as keywords at the top of the window. And so Todd wants to see what people are saying around cost savings. And he can see that in the cost savings tab. And after he reads through that, he can go back to the live feed. And up in the upper right-hand corner, he can upvote comments that he likes, pin things to his own personal curated feed, or raise his hand more effectively for the facilitator using the tool set. He sees a link shared by Hector here that he wants to save to his personal feed. So he pins it, and you can see it here on his personal feed tab. But I want to point out that the apps that I've just shown you are really just a Trojan horse solution. They're apps created as productivity tools that curate chat logs that generate the chat logs that can then generate leads that are linked to CRMs and marketing solutions from information that would otherwise be lost in the webinar. And this is not a new approach. It's already been proven. There's a solution out there, a company called Gong that's been tremendously successful. They've achieved $7.25 billion in revenue in just 5 years. And while they mine video, we'll mine video chat to generate revenue opportunities. The founding team of Chatteezy is made up of Hector Rodriguez and myself, with over 50 years of experience in computer science, AI, and taking software companies from pre-revenue to exit. And in closing, I'd like to leave you with just one thought, that the million of interactions in video chat are too important to ignore. That companies spend a tremendous amount of money at the top of the funnel, and the wealth of insights and leads are too important. And we're moving forward to build out this opportunity. And so if you have any questions for Hector and I, we can take them now.
Thanks, Lise. That was 5 minutes, 26 seconds. And does anybody have a question? So while we're waiting, who is your ideal customer for Chatteezy?
So we are in a research phase, but we think it would be technology-based companies.
Okay, perfect. And what's the current status of the technology?
So we are coming out of a pivot. So we're in a new research to market phase.
Okay, great.
Praful has a hand raised.
Hang on. I'm sorry.
Praful?
Oh, Raful?
Yeah, thanks. Liz, what particular platforms does the technology work? Does it work only on Zoom or all the existing platforms?
We're anticipating it'll work across different platforms.
Which ones are you doing your beta testing on now?
We're not in beta test. We're just coming out of a pivot.
Okay, thanks.
Tasso, do you want to go ahead?
Have you considered using this with something like Twitch, where you have like sometimes tens of thousands of people who are commenting in a chat in an area where you could never follow it, but something like Chatteezy could really help mine sentiment from those chats and provide that to streamers?
It's a possibility. I'm not sure that will be our target beachhead.
Okay, Joey, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Lise, thanks for this. Great presentation and intriguing product from even just looking how we could use it today. I'm interested in recognizing you're in a research phase, how you plan to grow this once you get it out of a research phase. Do you want to raise capital to do this, or are you going to try to drive it on your own financially?
Raise capital.
Do you have any idea how much you might be interested in looking for? Is it too early to tell?
Hector, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I can. So it's too early to tell. So many of these questions, we can take them offline because there are some answers already throughout our study of this potential solution. But it's too early to say how much money would be needed. It will depend on the second half of the year when the minimum viable product has already gotten traction. Depending on the results that we'll be observing, we will gauge what kind of a capital raise we will be organizing.
Great, thank you so much.
Gwen is asking, is the data mined for the client or for sale?
Oh, it's never for sale. So it will be for the customer. The customer is really the one that will use the insights and connect into its marketing stack and the CRM.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. All righty, I'm looking for another question, but let's see. I have a question here for both of you. Why hasn't a company like Zoom done this, or how does Chatteezy intend to outcompete large existing players in the space?
Well, so there's over 100 integrations right now in the Zoom marketplace, and there is only 3 related to chats. So it looks like an unexplored territory. It is Zoom is right now working on it. Don't get me wrong, is working on enhancing the one-to-many chat capability, but not really in what is the core of this market, which is not the productivity tools for facilitators and participants, but really the mining of the data once the logs have been opted in. That is the true core of this capability in this company. And that is an area where Zoom is not entering.
Okay, thank you. Justin, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. So my question is, so if you do integrate with platforms like Zoom and Teams, will you need their support from integration to get the data? Like, do you need them to develop the APIs, or can you directly, port that data out of Zoom without having support from the other companies?
I think our technical folks are right now trying to understand the API from Zoom, but other products like the one that Liz was introducing, like Gong, has developed another capability around the video, which is recorded, and this is a similar situation using the same suite of APIs that Zoom provide. So the support is as any other developer that is creating integrations within their application, similar to any and all the integrations you see, for example, in the Salesforce marketplace. So yeah, definitely, to the extent that you use Zoom, you will need to be using their APIs.
Thank you. That's 10 minutes. Thanks so much.
All right. And I just want to sort of give a most pivoted company award to Lise and Hector here. This was, I think, rather than being frustrated that this is in research phase, this is a total success. And again, this is the integration of the R2m program led to this shift, and hearing from real customers that this is much more interesting to them than the previous plan. So thumbs up to both of you for awesome work. All right, so with that, we will move on to Vitro 3D, and the EIR, Eric Hoffman, will be introducing them.
Great. Hello, my name is Eric Hoffman, and I have the honor of introducing Vitro 3D. And Candy and Johnny's story begins before they even started their PhDs at CU Boulder, when they met and they realized they had a common vision for the future of 3D printing for life sciences. And this is also a story about the Colorado entrepreneurial ecosystem. Over the last several years, Candy and Johnny have continued to develop their vision and have taken advantage of all the entrepreneurial programs available to them, including Starting Blocks, Lab Venture Challenge, Sage Advisors, and many more. However, the FAST program was instrumental in bringing all the pieces together, and specifically to customer discovery. And the challenge now for Vitro 3D is, who are the best investors and partners to work with moving forward? So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Camilla Uzgatsky and Dr. Johnny Herder.
Thank you so much, Eric, and thank you to RVC and venture partners in the FAST Hyper Accelerator program. My name is Dr. Camilla Uzgatsky. I am co-founder and CEO of Vitro 3D. Vitro 3D develops cutting-edge 3D printing technologies for the life sciences. Johnny and I have been developing 3D printing solutions for 5 years. We started Vitro 3D with the vision to impact the life science market and make healthcare accessible to all. We began working on applying our platform technology to mimic cancer tissue for improving the drug discovery process. But after 106 customer discovery interviews, we've confirmed more than half a dozen applications for our revolutionary 3D printing technology, from drug discovery to tissue engineering and even dental devices. With an enthusiastic response from stakeholders in several life science markets, we've identified our beachhead in the dental category. We will thus use our platform technology to solve a major pain point in the dental market and commercialize our 3D printer. Currently, dental aligner production is outsourced to manufacturing sites. This leads to a cost of $2,000 to $8,000 for the patient and 4 to 9 weeks to receive the first aligner. This is much too long. This leads to inconsistent patient outcomes due to the delay in receiving aligners. And these inconsistent outcomes and shifting timelines impact retention and satisfaction. Also, the dental aligner market is the biggest user of light-based 3D printing in the world, but current manufacturing methods are slow, wasteful, and extremely inefficient. The biggest pain point this industry faces is a massive waste of time and resources used to 3D print the molds, as seen here, rather than 3D printing the dental aligners themselves. Molds are single-use products, and 10 to 20 are created for each patient over the course of their treatment. A leading dental aligner manufacturer has even said that their #1 goal is to directly 3D print dental aligners. We're here to solve that problem for them. Our solution is to directly print dental aligners using a brand new volumetric 3D printing method. This is cheaper, faster, and easier to use. Using the Vitro 3D volumetric cartridge printer, we allow dentists to make custom aligners in-house, thereby solving the largest pain point in the market. Instead of the traditional layer-by-layer 3D printing method that you're probably thinking of, volumetric 3D printing is completely different. It works by projecting a sequence of images, and as this volume rotates, all of that intensity adds up in the center to create a solid, and that entire geometry will just materialize at once. This makes it 100 times faster than any other 3D printing method on the market, which at 5 minutes total print time is fast enough to print aligners at the point of care. In addition, the fact that it occurs in an enclosed volume, it removes opportunity for user error. Regarding intellectual property, we are rock solid. We are licensing 2 issued patents and 4 patents between CU and Lawrence Livermore National Labs. Our Vitro 3D cartridge printer is applicable in many target markets. We've chosen dental aligners as our beachhead because this is our fastest and most lucrative go-to-market pathway due to decreased regulatory hurdles. This market is growing at a CAGR of 27.3%, making this optimal timing to enter the market. It will be valued at $9.4 billion by 2025. Since our volumetric cartridge printer can use diverse sterile cartridges, our future vision is to expand into other healthcare applications and be the push of a button 3D printer that can do it all at the point of care. Our main competitors are the current 3D printers used to manufacture dental aligners through the molding process I described previously. There are no other volumetric 3D printers on the market focused on this product. We are a disruptive technology that would bring dental aligner manufacturing to the dentist's office. We outperform competitors in 3 key areas. Our 5-minute print speed makes this the only 3D printer able to be at the point of care. We allow patients to leave with an aligner by the end of their first appointment. No handling or technical expertise is necessary to produce the aligner because with the Vitro 3D printer, a user simply needs to input a cartridge and press a button. Our ability to control materials, mechanics, and structure leads to functional parts with improved patient outcomes. So far, we've made huge accomplishments in the 3D printing space. We've been awarded over $200,000 in non-dilutive funding through the Lab Venture Challenge, the FAST Hyper Accelerator, and the New Venture Launch Class. Through our continuing work in Bob McLeod's lab, we just completed an NSF collaboration with Align Technologies, the biggest manufacturer of aligners in the world. In the past few months, we've already been able to volumetrically 3D print a portion of an aligner seen in the middle, and we have completed design of our cartridge product seen on the right. Our next step is to build out a big enough volumetric printer to fabricate a full aligner. This is the best team that could execute on this vision because our team is composed of the most well-versed researchers and engineers in volumetric 3D printing. We've built a cross-disciplinary team through campus resources, and we have amazing scientific advisors at the forefront of 3D printing. Maxime and Hayden are the co-inventors of volumetric 3D printing. With support from SAGE and entrepreneurs in residence, we're making significant strides toward commercializing this product. So what's next for us? The Vitro 3D volumetric printer is currently in product development, and we are working on 3D printing our first show and tell aligner. We're in the process of preparing for a pre-seed round of funding and for a proof of concept 3D printer. We're also in conversations with 4 commercial partners who are interested in partnering in the materials and dental space. We're doing a pre-seed raise this year that will close at the end of Q3, and this will allow us to complete a production scale VAM 3D printer and also have a paid minimum viable product and proof of concept with an enterprise client. There are several exit points for this technology, including being acquired by a 3D printing manufacturer or a portion of us being acquired by a dental company. Here are a few that we think are relevant targets. Thank you so much, and please join Vitro 3D in revolutionizing 3D printing for life science.
Thanks, Camilla. That was 6 minutes, 23 seconds. Let's see if we have any questions here. Hang on, let's see. Do we have any questions?
We could start with Doug Mandick. He's got a question.
Hey, Doug.
Hi, Camilla. It's nice to see you again. Great job. The technology you're licensing from Lawrence Livermore, and I guess you as well, are those licenses exclusive?
So yes, they would be exclusive to a specific field of use. We're actually currently in conversations with Lawrence Livermore National Labs in terms of how specific and how broad we can make that field of use.
Okay. So I guess that's meeting in the middle somewhere. Is this technology in the commercial market anywhere yet for any application?
So there is a company called Readily 3D that is a type of volumetric 3D printer. They're focused in the biologics space. And there's also a company called Zolo. It uses a slightly different type of technology, which there are some questions in terms of the resolution, if it could achieve the high resolution that we expect to be able to achieve with this type of volumetric 3D printing.
Thanks.
Ian, did you want to ask your question? Okay, so are there product opportunities beyond aligners?
Yes, absolutely. So we really see this as our first go-to-market product, and it's really because of those regulatory hurdles that we see that being our beachhead market. However, we see this volumetric 3D printing technology impacting both the life science market space. My PhD was focused on tissue engineering applications. So because this is all happening in an enclosed space, you can have a sterile environment inside of the cartridge. So you could print with cells. You could also introduce cells, and some of our intellectual property is around microscale control of properties. And that actually allows us to mimic the microscale properties of tissue inside of the body. So it is quite broad where we could apply this technology, but we really saw this as our entry to market.
Thanks. Praful, would you like
a great presentation. Certainly enjoyed what you're doing. Tell us a bit about your intellectual property.
Yeah, so in terms of intellectual property, there is two really core patents out of Lawrence Livermore National Labs. The co-inventors are currently on our scientific advisory board. And that was really the first time that the idea of volumetric 3D printing was in a patent form. From there, we've really built on those patents in terms of the cartridge-based volumetric 3D printing. There is a question of whether we are building on top of those core patents or this is actually completely separate technology. And I can go into this is our cartridge 3D printer, where rather than actually rotating the volume, you would be rotating the images through a rotating grating, and it would come in at an angle through a flat plane. So because we've developed this technology at CU, we really see this being as the crux of this cartridge product, because now you no longer need to be in a vial, which is big and the light has to pass through the entire volume. Now you would be able to expand the options of what that cartridge product could look like.
Thank you.
We have about 1 more minute. Let's see, Gwen is asking, can you describe how the initial dental impression is taken of the patient?
Yes, of course. So all of the dental people that we've spoken with, so whether it's dentists, orthodontists, or folks in the dental manufacturing space, have told us that the field of dentistry is moving into digital dentistry. So actually, rather than an impression, what's being used is kind of like a wand that is moved through your teeth, and it takes a 3D image of the teeth. And we actually had a customer interview earlier today, because customer interviews never stop, where they talked to us about the actual software that goes into, and the different types of software, and where that image is actually turned into either the 3D printed mold, or in our case, turned into a 3D printed aligner. So moving into that digital dentistry space.
Thanks, Camilla. That's 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Great presentation, Camilla. Appreciate that. Okay, so next up will be Because talking about commuting technology, and we've got introducing them Kashif Hasni, the EIR.
Hello, guys. Thank you, Peter. And thanks, everybody, for such good presentations. My name is Kashif Hasni, and I am one of the 2 EIRs, along with Hector Rodriguez, who had worked for the last 7 months with Business Commute Optimization System, which, or in short, Because. And I can vouch for the team because of the 7 months we have spent together, that a lot of hard and smart work has went into it. Briefly about the idea, about the team, about the startup. It is situated in the ever increasing and more attractive mobility vertical these days, where a lot of partnerships and investments are going, and Because is solving problem of traffic congestion, air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, increasing energy and infrastructure costs. And it will be dealt in more detail in a few seconds by Motasem Abdullah, who is the presenter and one of the co-founders and the idea originator for this startup. He teaching at UC Denver, along with the 2 other co-founders, Caroline Clevenger and Shahriar Mangasemi, looking after sustainable integration and development of the engineering side of things. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Motasem Abdullah.
Thanks, Kasha, for the warm introduction. And hello, everyone, and welcome to Business Commute Optimization System, or Because, a tool that will revolutionize our trips to shared destinations. We all know how stressful and time-consuming commuting can be. Based on the latest reports in 2019, the average commuter spent around 28 minutes commuting one way. Think about it. This is around like or more than 5 weeks of work each year, when the average worker only gets 4 weeks of vacation. Yes, the pandemic disrupted work and changed the commute for most of us, but data show that employees are returning to the office and mobility is still a major issue. In 2021, the US recorded 1.3 billion trips per day, which is 90% of our pre-COVID trips. Prior to the pandemic, around 23% of workers quit a job because of long commute. Now more than ever, employers are trying to retain their employees. Luckily, we have already developed a fully functioning MVP with a website and mobile apps that enables smart commuting, especially with the need for hybrid work environment. Now let's take a look at how BCause works with Josh. Josh is a cool guy that commutes 3 days a week to downtown Denver during the pandemic, but he spends around 25 minutes driving alone from the tech center. Josh started to use BCause so he doesn't worry about his commute. Josh reported his commute needs where the system generated the recommended commute plans. Josh receives his commute plans on his phone where he can accept or decline his commute plans. If Josh declines his commute plans, that's not a problem because BCause provides alternative commute plans where Josh can accept these plans. For example, Josh is recommended to pick up Kate on his way to work on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Because Josh and Kate work at the same organization and they could save 1 parking spot with this recommended commute plan, the employer is willing to offer them $5 a week for following this recommended commute plan. Now let's take a look at the benefits for Josh, Kate, and their employer. With BCause, Josh saves $80 per month on his commute costs, socializes with his coworker Kate, and reduces his emissions by 25%. Kate saves $110 in her commute cost per month, overcomes her commute stress, burns 200 more calories, and also saves 50% on her emissions. Josh and Kate's employer with 100 employees saves $5,000 per month on parking, and also the all employees save $2,000 a month. Not only that, but also the employer enjoys healthier and more social employees with less turnovers. The employer reduces transportation emission by 30%, which can be a great marketing tool and also potential compliance with government policies. Now we have an interdisciplinary team with combined experience of over 80 years. I am Mutassim Abdullah, co-founder and CTO of BCause, with a strong expertise in operation research and transportation demand management. Caroline Clevenger is a co-founder and COO supporting BCause in operation, partnership, and strategic planning. Shahriar Manghasmi is a co-founder and he's leading the engineering and development of our platform, algorithms, and mobile apps. Jean Tolva is an advisor supporting BCause in strategic planning and partnership. We're excited that we received so far $750,000 from various organizations over the past years. The earlier funding that we received from the Department of Transportation was used to develop the system website, algorithms, and mobile apps. The latest funding that we received from OEDIT would be used to run a number of pilot programs to identify product market fit and go-to-market strategies. We received strong interest from various transportation organizations that are supporting us in testing our service and documenting its value with employers. Specifically, we are working with City and County of Denver, City of Westminster, and McCarthy Building companies to launch pilot programs. This opportunity is huge with 210 million commute trips per day. If 50% of commuters were like Josh, we're likely to save 105 million hours per week in commute time, 25% in commute emissions, and $11 billion in commute costs per month. The government policies that mandate reduction of transportation emissions are expected to be enforced in the coming few years, such as the Employer Traffic Reduction Program in Colorado. This allows BCause to be a prime tool to support employers to comply with such policies. Finally, to generate effective solutions that really disrupt the traditional commute behavior, we're looking for partnership and collaboration to test and expand our service. The commuting problem has existed for several decades, and our experienced team identified a new approach to revolutionize our commute. We have already MVP to implement our solution, and our platform is scalable with potential applications across the nation and internationally. So please join us to revolutionize how we commute at each of our work destinations.
Thanks, Mutassim. That was 4 minutes, 59 seconds. That's a great time. We'll look for some of your questions here, but I'd just like to start out. You know, you mentioned legislation here in Colorado. what is the status of it, and how would it help drive adoption?
So as of now, so the trip program is like voluntary, so it's not like employers are not required to follow that as of now, but we're expecting it to be enforced in the coming few years. So if that happens, so employers would be required to report on how employees commute to the office and their emissions, and they need to reduce emissions by a certain percent. So the previous round was like around 30% reduction by 2021 or 2020, January 2022. But again, as I said, it's voluntary so far.
Sure. Okay, thanks. Rick is asking, what's the revenue model?
We are still working on that, but our plan is that we're going to target like transportation management associations because they are working on how people move and goods move like in certain areas. This is their main goal. So we do that really in a way advanced, in a more advanced way. So we're going to work with a number of transportation management associations as they help us to work with employers. Once we work with a number of employers, we'll document the value, and then we build our business and try to sell directly to employers. But as of now, still working or figuring this out.
Okay, it looks like Rick has another question. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Hello?
You're on mute, Rick.
Sorry, that was my question. Thank you.
Oh, okay, perfect. All righty. Anybody else? Okay. So, what is the anticipated sales and onboarding timeline for new customers?
So as of now, so the latest grant that we received from Audit will use it to do some technical development. So just like few features for the mobile apps and the website. And we should be able to start making sales like towards the maybe the last quarter of 2022 or end of 2022. But until then, so the grant will cover like a number of pilot programs, product market fit, and also go-to-market strategy, which we really need at the moment.
Great. And what's the desired exit strategy?
We're still thinking about, again, to be bought by a large company once we establish and document and quantify the benefits from employer and employees benefits. We're looking for to be bought by a large company. But again, as we build like a large customer base, I think we'll be able to think about that or create like a better response to that. And Cash, if you can jump in if you have a better answer to that. So.
Well, obviously, I mean, the biggest thing we experienced during the entire FAST program was the R2m. The 3 weeks we spent together, and we did the research, and we are learning from that experience so far. And I think our product needs a little bit of tweaking as well in the future. But for obvious reasons, I mean, first it's the customer discovery and then the acquisition of customers, and only then we can think about acquisition or something if a big player in the market would like to have us. But so far, a firm strategy on paper, it doesn't exist at this point in time. But customer discovery is more important for the team.
Thanks so much. Okay, we can, unless anybody else has another question, we'll move on.
Yeah, I'll leave my LinkedIn link in the chat, so for anybody who wants to ask questions. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Thanks, guys. Pitch. All right, so put on your science hats. Our next pitch will be from Vesicle Therapeutics, and we've got EIR Todd Wallach to introduce them.
Great, thanks, Peter. Good evening, everybody, and greetings from Philadelphia. I'm Todd Wallach. I am an EIR here in Colorado, as well as a life science entrepreneur. And on behalf of my fellow EIR, Curtis Woodward, I'd like to introduce Vesicle Therapeutics. Vesicle was founded by Dr. Zhudong Liu and Dr. Gan Zhang, who are both well-recognized thought leaders in drug delivery and drug development, and are also successful serial entrepreneurs. Vesicle's technology is revolutionary. Their technology delivers current and emerging therapeutics efficiently and effectively to target organs and cells. This strategy will lead them to multiple partnerships to enhance other companies' ability to deliver drugs, as well as the advancement of their own therapeutic platforms, which we'll talk about today. We've seen extensive growth over the last several months, including multiple awarded grants, some initial friends and family funding, and initial commitments towards a seed round. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Zhudong Liu, founder of Vesicle Therapeutics.
Hi, Todd. Thank you for the introduction. I'm here to tell you our story about Vesicle Therapeutics. So when we talk about drugs, we often think about pills and tabs. They are small molecules. They can get into the cells and reach their target. Lately, we are seeing a lot of vials. These are the large molecules like therapeutic nucleic acid and proteins and mRNA. These type of molecules find great success, target extracellular target, but they are impermeable to cells. It's very hard to bring them into the cells. So this is a major pain point. So there are some solutions people are working on. First, there's a viral delivery that can bring the nucleic acid into the target cells. But the problem is with virus, yeah, you can get in, can't get rid of them. It's irreversible. So the space of gene therapy with viral vector is heating up. There's a lot of activities. Then there's lipid nanoparticles. We know vaccines and the artificial lipids can deliver mRNA, and they're working. And the thing is, you and I, we all know is even with 50 microgram of these knock you pretty well. There's a side effects. Then there's mobile compatible extracellular vesicles. And this vesicles is a normal channel for cell communicating with each other. The issue there is it's very difficult to generate fusogenic extracellular vesicle, and cargo inside is difficult to introduce. So a few years ago, and we figured out a solution to this problem, and we built industrial producer cells and program them to produce extracellular vesicles are highly fusogenic with cargoes packaged in. So we turn this producer cells into a machine, and we can produce large quantities and use them to dose the target cells. Once in the target cells, they are fusogenic and cargo release. So essentially, we are ferrying these therapeutic cargoes from the producer cells to the target cell. Does it work? In animals. So in this study, we're trying to wipe out PCSK9 gene, which controls cholesterol levels. We slip in the gene editing machineries into gexosome and dose mice. So as you can see, upon injections, these vesicles end up into the relevant tissues, liver. After 3 injections, the PCSK9 levels plummet and stay there, which translated into a lower cholesterol levels. So this study shows us that gexosome can be a therapeutic solution. Subsequently, we did several studies and shows gexosome can send in RNA therapeutic nucleic acid or gene therapy tools or vaccines and enzymes. So this really represents a multiple shots on goals and created multiple therapeutic and give you exit ramps. It also allows us to enable some of the previous medicines not possible to develop. So the nice thing about all these therapeutic modalities is they all can be manufactured in a similar manner. So what we're trying to do is to figure out a disease indication, target ID, and then we go through our gexosome 5-step. Go through this building process, we'll build up quickly a product pipeline. So we've been doing this for a few years, so we are particularly good at this space, and we are expanding our patent IP estate. So the timeline, the company is a new startup. We secured SBR, STTR fundings in last year. So we are seeking a seed round about $2.5 million. So this will get us to lock down the therapeutic indications and manufacture in the toxicity studies. 18 months or 24, we'll aim for 25 million Series A. That will get us the IND ready product. So we're looking for exit in 2025. So we have a very experienced managed team, and CEO Donna and myself are co-founders of Boulder-based Uncure Therapeutics. We have done this before. We put therapeutics into clinics through IND, and this in phase 2 clinical trials. We have a senior VP in the company who are industrial veterans, actually contribute significantly to put 3 FDA-approved drugs on the market. So thanks to FAST, we bring on Curtis and Todd. We've been working together for the last 7 months, been a lot of fun. They are staying with us for the foreseeable futures. Just a quick recap for our financials. The FF round, we got 100K, got an R&D grant, $500,000. So we are opening the seed round. So far, we just started a couple of weeks ago. We already have a 700K committed. So we are still talking to several prospective investors. So our Series A aim to raise $255 million. And if you are interested in getting involved in saving lives and improve healthcare, please contact me. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Dr. Wu. That was 5 minutes and 54 seconds. Do we have any questions here?
Sure. I'll start. Dr. Liu, there was a lot of fun listening to some true science advancement. I have a couple of simple questions on Gectosome. So what you are administering to the patient is the Gectosome, not the producer cell. Is that correct?
Yes, we are dosing patient with Gectosomes.
Gectosome only, okay.
Therapeutic cargoes, yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to see what is the focus going to be, what particular type of disease or delivery system you're looking at?
Yes, I glanced over this. We are looking at the first couple of indications. One of them is in the immuno-oncology space. We are delivering Gectosome that can modulate tumor microenvironment. That's the first one. We have a government-funded STTR grant. The aim there is to develop this technology for hypercholesterolemia. And we have another SBR grant is pending with a fundable score.
But I have a somewhat of a naive question. This sounds exciting, but tell me about some proof that it's going to work.
Proof in terms of future tools, or so this is the enabling technology. Let's think about the gene therapy. Like if you were to deliver like CRISPR-Cas, or nowadays there's the prime editing. If we rewrite genetic code in long term, you need a delivery solution. So virus like AAV is not going to be able to fulfill that. First, it's a permanent change, and you don't want to carry the gene editing complex around. And also the size of the cargo or size of the genome AAV is very limited. So with Gectosome, there's no such limitation. And also it's trained in the delivery. It's working like a drug. If you take it off, then it's going away. So we think this will be a amendable gene therapy platform in the long run. In the short run, I can think about we can deliver therapeutic nucleic acid. So like ASOs and sRNAs, these are the reachable.
Thank you. Yeah, we have time for, well, we have about 2 more minutes, and I see that we have a question from Dominique. It's, could it be used in kidney and cancer treatments?
Kidney cancer treatment. Yes, when we did biodistributions, we see quite a bit of accumulation in liver and kidneys later on. So the tissue biodistribution informed us we can go to the kidney, and there's a possibility for delivering therapeutics to kidney. well, with like liquid nanoparticles, these macrophages take them up, eat them. So it's not capable of really reach other tissues more specifically. So I think this is a unique opportunity. In terms of cancer, this is our major goals, is because we have a lot of experience over decades of development of anti-cancer drugs. And this is where we wanted to be this space. And the safety concern is lesser issue, and the efficacy is always the premium for anti-cancer therapy.
Sibylla, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, I saw in the chat, the estimated manufacture cost, average AAV production cost. Yeah, the cost of manufacture is probably comparable to AAV manufacture. We are using the same industrial lines. As you're probably aware these days, the AAV space is heating up, and the company's valuation is going to the roof. And there's a lot of competitions in the AAV space. So there's a long line waiting to manufacture this. The cost is quickly rising up. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much. We sure appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Great pitch, Jadang. That took a super complicated concept and made it understandable. So I really appreciate that. Okay, so last but not least, we have 2me Genomics and another company who's gone through a pivot during this program. So I'll introduce Hector Rodriguez, who you've seen before as EIR, to introduce 2me Genomics.
Hi, so here I'm back again. So together with Todd Wallach, my EIR pal, I am super stoked to be introducing you to Tasa Saldi and 2me Genomics in what it is another remarkable story of executive drive and flawless execution and doing more faster. Even if the tale started as maybe being a little late to market for COVID, the team was able to turn it around and create and define a totally new market category. And that is preventive care and certification in cannabis growth. So not only they defined a new market category, but they likely already started to own it. If you use by indicator, really what excites investors and entrepreneurs the most, which is traction and revenue. So Tasa, it is now your time to shine.
Great. Thank you very much, Hector, for that introduction. And thank you everybody for listening to our pitch today. So truism of the cannabis industry, dead plants do not make any money. And according to our 50+ customer interviews, the #1 threat to plant health is pathogens. Pathogens can present initially asymptomatically, spread quickly and silently, and destroy an entire crop. It's estimated that up to 15% of all cannabis crops are lost to pathogens. Oops. That is a staggering $10 billion of lost market value and about $500,000 of unearned revenue per grower. And part of the reason this is true is that growing cannabis is actually very hard. There are a lot of pathogens that can destroy this crop, including yeast, mold, viruses, viroids, and fungus. And these pathogens are coming at the growers from all directions. They can come in through the water, through the air, they can exist on surfaces, and even asymptomatically in the plants themselves. So to combat this, growers need to identify which pathogens they should be worried about and then find and vet, usually multiple third-party labs, to test for these pathogens in all these different medium. Additionally, growers need to consider personal protective equipment because these pathogens can come in on their employees, correct tool sterilization, and a standard operating procedure to coordinate all of this testing. Growers also have to come up with a system of organization to track all of this data and hopefully use it to improve pest management for their next crop. So altogether, this task can be very daunting for the average grower. And we've actually had customers say that they feel so overwhelmed, they just feel like giving up. So in order to combat this, 2me Genomics is taking all of this complexity and condensing it down into a single consolidated subscription service. Growers will have one point of contact, 2me Genomics. We will provide all of the third-party in-lab testing. We will provide the equipment and training for an on-site testing platform and a system of organization that can record the results, provides tailored standard operating procedures, and actionable insights to improve pest management for their next crop. And for all the services that are tangential, we are already in talks with strategic partners that can contract through 2me Genomics to provide those services. But probably the most valuable thing the subscription service will provide is a certification. Growers will be able to tell their customers that their seeds, clone, and final product were grown with scientifically rigorous standard operating procedures and extensively tested and validated to be pathogen-free. In order to realize these consolidated services, we have a strong pipeline of products. We have already begun our rapid third-party testing service, which is functioning on an international level. In the next few months, we hope to bring out our on-site pathogen detection system. This system is fast, easy, and the only high throughput on-site pathogen detection system in the cannabis industry. Now, I should say this platform is not just theoretical. It has already been created, validated, manufactured, and it is in the hands of paying customers who are currently using this for COVID-19 surveillance. We have successfully adapted this technology to the cannabis space and filed an international patent. In the long term, we plan to wrap all of these services and additionally other services into a full turnkey subscription that will provide a software system of organization and a certification for the growers. The cannabis market is an attractive market opportunity. It sits at about $65 billion and has the potential to grow up to $100 billion in the next few years. Of that, $2.3 billion is spent by growers in the production of THC flower, which is the crop that has the most value in this market and the crop that is the most devastated by pathogens. Of course, the rubber really meets the road when you ask the question, would a grower actually pay 2me Genomics to help them prevent pathogen outbreaks in their facility? And the answer to this question is they absolutely would, because they already are. We began our third-party testing service in July of 2021 and pivoted hard into the cannabis industry during this accelerator. And in the course of 2 months, we grew 700%. We currently have more than 150 customers and a monthly recurring revenue of about $50,000. We also have strong market signal that a certification program is something growers want. What I'm showing you here are actual Instagram posts from growers who are bragging about using 2me Genomics to prove that their crops are pathogen-free. And they are not the only growers doing this. There are many, 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 many growers who are already using 2me Genomics as a certification service. We are very lucky at 2me Genomics to have a professional and experienced team. We have 4 PhD scientists. We have more than 100 years of experience in vitro assay design and molecular biology. We have a great software and information system team and wonderful business support, including experience in logistics and operations. And Gonzalo, who was the executive director of the Cannabis Collective for the country of Peru and the science and technology director of a large agricultural company. We also have a strong advisory team, Hector and Todd, who have experience in starting and growing successful companies in both the biotechnology and software development space. We are seeking $2.5 million of investment to take a concept that is already working and accelerate the growth of this company to become a leader in preventative plant healthcare for the cannabis industry. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for your time and attention, and I would be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Tasa. 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Do we have, let's see, we already have a question here from Eva's asking, does testing plant pathogens require the same level of sensitivity or specificity as COVID testing, or is it more forgiving?
So yes and no. The level or the standards that are currently in the cannabis industry are definitely not up to par compared to what's going on in the diagnostic industry. But that's one of the problems that our company is going to solve. So whereas a lot of companies just invent a test and provide no validation, we're raising the bar on the science in this industry and providing the same level of sensitivity and specificity as is required in human diagnostics.
What does the testing look like from the grower's perspective?
Right. So for the third-party testing, we've created a really streamlined sample collection process. They take a small piece of stem, they put it into a tube, close the lid, shake it up, and pop it in the mail. So from their standpoint, it's very easy.
And will TUMI be conducting tests on site, or is the grower responsible for the testing?
Right. So we will eventually be offering both services. Right now, we are a third-party testing lab. So they collect those samples and mail them to us. Once we integrate in our platform, the grower will follow the exact same process, but then take a small capillary tube, stick it in the tube, and put it into the test. And that's all they have to do. And we will provide training so they can also get results on site instantly. And most of our conversations with growers, I think that growers would like to have both of those capabilities at the same time.
So you've had some strong early growth. How are you going to sustain that?
Yes, so we are discovering what types of marketing work the best in this industry. It turns out that social media, especially Instagram, is the place to be. We are working with Instagram influencers in order to promote us, which brings in a lot of customers. And we're also targeting our marketing towards new markets because a lot of growers will open up and there are no resources. So we're having our best luck in, for example, Montana that just legalized in January.
Okay. And could you share more information about the competition in the on-site pathogen testing market?
Yes. So I do actually have a slide here that talks about competition. So we basically have 4 major value propositions, and we do have competition in at least 3 of these. So as far as the on-site testing, there are 4 major companies that have a testing platform. What they don't have is a high throughput testing platform that is sensitive enough to weed out true negatives. So that is the major 2 reasons why a lot of customers call us and say, forget this testing platform, I want third-party testing because I can't trust the sensitivity of the test. And so our test outperforms all of these. A lot of these tests also don't have an internal control, which is a big no-no for diagnostic tests.
Great. We've got just about 1 more minute. I'm seeing a question from Louise. What are the opportunities for partnerships with other companies that are currently selling or servicing growers?
Yes. So one of the biggest opportunities for partnerships that we see is actually over here in the software as a service quadrant. There are a plethora of companies and more popping up every day that offer a software as a service to help growers maximize efficiency. But when we went to the MJ Biz conference and talked to these these software companies, not a one of them is offering integrated pest management because you cannot do it as just a software company. You also have to be a molecular biology company. So one possibility for a collaboration here would be for us to work with one of these well-established companies in order to augment their software with an integrated pest management program.
That brings us to 10 minutes. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.
All right, Tasa, great job, everybody. And Tasa, by the way, you had 3 or 4 questions in the chat. Maybe you could reply in there and get to those. So, all right, so here we are. We have now heard 7 amazing pitches, and I think you'll all agree that these are, really, these guys have done a good job, and the improvement we've seen over this time period has been really pretty significant. So I just want to remind you that here we are after the pitches. So investors, stay here. in the main stage, and we'll be here. Those of you who are familiar with the RVC process, will go through each of the 7 companies. We'll talk about who's interested in leading and following, and we'll always start our discussions with something positive about each company. The other folks will be moved into a breakout room for debriefing and networking. We will move along and after that. So I want to just take a moment to actually have Stephen Miller come up, and we want to do some thanks for folks once again, because there were many people involved in this. And by the way, I'm realizing, Stephen, we didn't mention all of the people in the CU Ventures program, like Sally Hatcher and Dano, who's been here all the way throughout making everything happen, and probably others who I didn't mention, but maybe Stephen, you could do that.
You bet. Yeah. Thank you. Am I coming through okay?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Special thanks to you, Peter, and RVC. You and I have a relationship that goes back well over a decade, going back to hosting the Angel Capital Summit and, my previous gigs. So always such a privilege to interact with you and to foster entrepreneurship and our entire ecosystem through the region. So thank you so much. RVC, Sally Hatcher, she was on our call earlier along with the rest of our venture partners team. And I know many of the mentors that engage with us as well were huge parts of that research to market program. Thank you for all of you that helped get these teams to where they are today. Absolutely phenomenal. I want to thank the teams themselves. It's a tremendous amount of trust and faith that you put in all of us in participating in this program. You trusted not only venture partners and RVC, but EIRs, with your baby, with your invention, with your passion, with your innovation. And, we just want to thank you for being open and trusting, and how hard you worked. I mean, every EIR made a comment in some form or another, and we saw it happen. You pivoted, you faced hard realities. Those of you that had it from the beginning, went even farther and faster. So, it's really amazing and really special, to see this kind of openness and, willingness to learn. You're a group of people who are almost always the smartest people in the room. To be the student and to learn, is something really exceptional. So thank you for that. Most of all, though, I really have to thank our EIRs, Granyak, Kashif, Curtis, John, Todd Wallach, Hector, Eric. This is an amazing group of people who are worth 10 times in value. What they put in this program is amazing. These are some of the best and the brightest from throughout the country, coast to coast. At different times, we had people participating from Ireland, San Francisco, Kansas City, Spain, and Philadelphia, amongst others, Texas. 3 of these people were well known to us and proved, as always, that they're spectacular. And another 3 of them were unknown to us, but they looked spectacular and they proved it. That's part of what not only furthering this ecosystem, but growing it is all about. So, it was really special to have this incredible group of people. And, we asked them for half-time work. And I don't know anybody on this team that put in anything less than 3/4 time. And most of them put in a full-time job's worth. In some cases, Eric Hoffman actually interacted with, I think, 5 different teams, maybe even 6 at one time. And every one of these EIRs stepped in and helped teams that were not technically assigned to them when they had something to contribute, to offer at one time or another. So, I could go on, and most of you that know me know that if you don't stop me, I will. So I'll stop there and just say thank you to this incredible group of EIRs. It's been an honor and a privilege to be associated with you, to watch you work and watch you help our teams.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephen. And I just want to double down on your comment about the teams. One thing that's unique, by the way, about commercialization of university technologies is most of these teams are working full-time at the university, and they've got day jobs. And so they're doing all this work and producing all of this while holding down a full-time job. So they're really putting in their 200%, and it really showed.
I do have one other thing,
yeah.
and I wanted to make sure not to miss anything. Everyone knows that this is coming. There was one person in particular that kept this entire program on the rails, on track, and doing, above and beyond on every level. And, I think he's one of those people that everyone would characterize not only as a professional and as an amazing executive and participant, but also as a friend, based upon, his outreach to everyone on this team. Daniel Marshall, it's amazing that in a remote environment, people could feel so close, and he's the reason why. So a special thanks to Dano. You're loved by everybody in this room.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Stephen. I think anybody who's been involved in this program will second that comment. So he's really been the glue that's held it together. I do, Stephen, when you said everybody knows this is coming, I thought you were going to say something about something else that's coming up, and just a quick advertisement for Destination Startup that we have coming up in just a few weeks.
Sure.
So that's something.
So everybody, if you haven't had don't have your invites, please reach out to me. Most of you are already on some version of a list, either as an investor, as a team. 2 of our teams here today are participating in Destination Startup. We're going to be back in person, and we're excited about it, assuming that we don't have whatever comes after Omicron. But this will be a hybrid event. It's our 4th Destination Startup. Teams competing in Destination Startup in the showcase have raised over $200 million in venture capital and additional grant funding. It's February 16th and 17th. The 16th will be virtual. The 17th will be at the Raleigh Hotel in downtown Denver. There'll also be, as in years past, a specific small intimate gathering of investors and the founders of the respective companies the night before on the 16th. So you can access that information on our website, and I'll try to post a link in here before we all break. What else? Again, 2 of our teams from FAST will be participating. We have right now close to 100 investors who have RSVP'd for the event from coast to coast, and that list is growing as we get closer and they decide that they're willing to travel somewhere and fly. So would be thrilled to have you there as an observer, as an investor, or as a support for the ecosystem. So I'll post that in our chat, and we would love to have you come to Destination Startup.
Yeah, so just double down on that. It's always been super well run, professional program, and really great place to meet some good companies. And I have to say, just coming up, those of you know RVC, our Angel Capital Summit, will be coming up in March. So make sure you get that on your calendars as well. With that, we are right on time. And we're ready to shift gears and move into investor forum mode. And so I'm going to stop sharing, and hopefully we can have Kevin do the moving people around and get everybody into the right room. And we'll start in just a few minutes once that's all taken care of.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. We'll move everyone that's not an accredited investor into that breakout session. So feel free to follow up, connect, to ask any additional questions that you have, share LinkedIn connections and whatnot there. And then I will jump in there and see if there's any accredited investors that I missed that are in the wrong room or the wrong place. So for those that are staying, feel free to take a couple minutes, run to the restroom, quick bio break, and then we'll jump in shortly. So I'll open up all those rooms now.
And EIRs, of course, just to reiterate, you should be in the investor forum as well to help move the conversations along.
All right. So I see folks getting pulled away. I'm going to switch our view to gallery so we can all see each other. Awesome. And then I'm just going to pop over to the other section or to the other breakout and make sure that there's no one missing that should be in here. So.
Okay.
the way.